Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm still working on a little bit of painting because it's taking me I'm painting just little mindless squares and it's taking me way longer than I thought. So I'm just gonna do it.
That's totally fine.
Do,
I think the things we have to talk about are just a little bit, more surface,
yep,
I think.
yep.
So,
That's why I thought I would rather than keeping you waiting.
yeah, that's great.
Just
Um, so, how's the week been on your end?
it's been a mess actually. I found
Yeah.
out that on Monday I found out that the drug that I was on for chemotherapy is being piloted for COVID. So they're doing tests to see if it will work. So it's one of the four drugs they're testing. So,
Yeah.
so I had lots of, I mean, I basically was in full flashback. Um,
Mm, yeah.
but that was Monday and I'm feeling better now. So,
Yeah. That's a lot of news.
yeah. And
Yeah.
you're not expected. I'm not telling you that in any way that I need you to in any way respond, just to give you a sense of why I maybe was completely silent this week.
Yeah, of course.
So
I mean, yeah, it's not that, um, I, I mean, I want to hear if you're well, of course,
yeah,
you know.
yep. How are you
Um,
doing?
it's been also a messy week, but a good one. Um, I've had a surprising amount of work, and then also just like organizing work for the union,
Oh yeah,
and some just like smaller editing projects that are coming together at a weird time, I guess.
yeah,
I think people are just like, okay, now that the world is turned upside down, let's finish up these editorial projects
yeah.
we
I
have.
have all this time now to finish these other things.
Exactly, exactly. Which has been good and like a good, I think, kind of distraction from a lot of things and from a lot of the waiting that has to happen right now.
Yeah,
Um, I've definitely had like a fair share of just sad news these days.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I think it's just like a sad time. A lot of people are mourning, and
yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
mm,
It's a
yeah,
sad and anxious time.
sad and anxious time. But today is a kind of like normally very like celebratory day for my family that like celebrates Good Friday actually.
Mm.
And we also celebrate the um, passing of my grandmother on a day like today. And so it was a really nice day because this morning we all kind of like virtually got together
Oh, that's
and
very
did this
sweet.
like ritual that we do together of like making this particular kind of soup. But everyone did it from like all over their homes and we kind of like video chatted in, you know?
That's
And it
very
was,
sweet.
yeah, I think it was kind of amazing because there's like a lot of people in my family who would never get on like a video platform, you know?
Yeah.
Like phone is like a challenge enough, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of mesmerizing to see these like older members of my family in like really small towns like on this video platform, you know?
That's really
So
sweet.
it's definitely like a memorable, it was a very memorable experience.
That's very sweet.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, it's been okay. I've definitely had a lot of people checking in from, the practicum wanting to know
Yep.
what's going to happen.
Yep.
I had, I think, the last interviews after we had spoken,
Mm-hmm.
um, that went really well.
Yep.
Everyone seemed really strong.
Yep.
So yeah, honestly, every single person I interviewed, I felt was a super strong candidate.
Yep.
In general, I had like the one slight doubt, the person that I mentioned to you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even then, like after like reflecting on it a while, I feel like this will still be a growing experience for them.
did she eventually follow through, or was it a full flake?
You mean the person who originally wasn't showing up for the interview?
Yeah.
Oh, she did follow through and she was great.
Okay.
I think the person who I had some doubt about was the first person we had talked about.
Oh, that one. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, even after reflecting on it, I was like, they're still pretty good, like pretty solid, you
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
Um,
So
so I also reached out to the person to Elena who does insurance.
yes.
Elena got back to me saying that there's no problem actually.
Wow.
Um, and also said that the turnaround for this process is, in terms of insurance, is under 2 weeks,
Uh huh.
and the pricing will be similar to what it was last year's.
Uh huh.
Even if a shorter period of time, even if the practicum runs a shorter period of time,
Same
because
price.
we're using minimum premiums.
Yeah. It's we're at the minimals. It's all
Exactly.
this is the least expensive it can be probably.
Exactly. So that's something to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, However, the world is really weird right now,
Yeah.
and um, I haven't I feel less confident than I did a couple of weeks ago
Yeah.
about where we're going to be in July or August
Yeah.
because of mixed, information about whether or not there's going to be like another wave. Also, clearly things are really strange right now. People are getting out of the city. I like there's so many institutions that seem like they won't be functioning,
Yes.
and so I'm feeling very hesitant right now.
Yeah. I am too. We talked last how many days ago? At
I
least a
think
week, right?
Yeah, I think a week ago. I think it was basically exactly a week ago actually.
Yeah, and I think that it feels like, I mean, partly we said we would know more, right? Which, not by, what day is today? It's the 10th.
Today,
We said we would
yeah,
know
today's
more
the
by
10th.
the 15th, is what we kind of figured.
Yeah.
And that still may be true that we'll know more in 5 days, but I feel like I did some research and looked at some other residencies. I sent some of that to you.
Yeah, I saw it.
And, these are organizations with more experience and, in many cases, better legal counsel, who are not going to run this summer. So
Yes.
that kind of felt to me pretty significant. Um, I'm wondering if there's any change in the response from the people, the applicants. Are they all pretty much uniformly have no interest in anything that's online? Is that correct?
No one has interest in anything online.
Got it.
And, every single person has stated that to me,
Yep. I
that
just,
they would rather apply next year than doing something online. Um, it seems like everyone except one person has a little bit of flexibility this summer
uh-huh.
in terms of things being pushed back.
Yep.
However, naturally participants want like a longer session. I feel like most people said that 4 weeks felt short, but that
Yep.
6 weeks would be fine.
Yep.
So that's the general consensus.
Yep. My sense, in full honesty, is it seems unreasonable to think we're going to be able to hold this in June at all, and probably July is pushing it. There's
Yeah.
question as to whether there's question as to whether we could pull it off in July or August. That we won't know for probably another month and a half. And even so, the reality is
It'd be too
that
late.
the the art world won't be there.
Exactly, exactly.
July
And
is
so
a
people would
complete
kind of not benefit
Yeah, like
from
August is a
this.
complete dead time for the art world. There will be no galleries open, right?
Yeah.
Um, so it feels to me like doing it in August is a bit of a false victory.
I
Um,
agree, yeah.
and um, and this is aside from my own personal interests and not wanting to be here, completely aside from that. Um, I, I, because as I've told you, I'm confident with you being the lead on it. But I think that there just wouldn't, like, who knows what's gonna, I mean, because the art world is gonna basically, they're hoping that there's going to be a fall season, right? They're all, no one cares about summer. They never make any money during the summer, and they're all in this panic mode of saying, "Holy shit, am I gonna have a business in three months or 6 months or a year?" Because many of them won't be around. Many will not weather this. And so their primary focus is not going to be on, oh, let's have some programming to keep the doors open and have some engagement with the public over the summer. Their primary focus is going to be um, on trying to figure out how they can sell some shit in the fall.
Absolutely.
So we're not going to get much engagement with talking to them. And the museums are also mostly closed. They're going to probably follow the models of whatever the Met does. But the Met's, I don't know. I just feel like it's so, um, it feels very risky to try. Um, I feel like, and if they're thinking that they want at 6 weeks, um, that's, I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Um, like,
Yeah, I think the fact that August is not the best moment is a huge indicator that it perhaps wouldn't be to everyone's benefit.
yeah,
Um, I mean, of course, there would still be the element of mentorship, um, which would be valuable, right?
right. But
But
I'm not.
even that in terms of like I don't know, I was thinking specifically about like Eliza's program, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is one that required like her project for the summer, the like pot fudge project was like bringing a lot of people in for public programming, right?
That's not how people aren't going to go to that.
Like
Even
no
if,
one's going to be doing that,
even even if they hold that. I mean, are you going to go to that?
No,
No.
no.
And so
So
that's the other thing is like I don't want a participant getting sick on my in my hands.
exactly, yeah.
I would rather sit the whole thing out than deal with
Then deal with
somebody
that.
who's in
Yeah,
the hospital. It's not worth it to me.
yeah, absolutely.
One way of looking at it is like it's not worth it to me, and I don't want to put you through that. And the other way of looking
Yeah,
at it is like, you know, it's not the responsible thing to do. We don't want to have that. Like part of it's like, oh, it's about stress, and the other is about just general responsibility. I just think
yeah,
that the potential for that to happen just seems so high, given that what we're expecting. I mean, what we're expecting is, um, you know, uh, the government is going to push to try to reopen the economy, probably earlier than it should, um, sometime in, you know, likely late May, early June, and we're we're going to get another spike. There's going to be more continuing transmissions, and we're going to have to go back to social distancing. And we have no idea when that's going to happen. That could happen 2 weeks afterwards, or it could happen five weeks afterwards, which is like solidly after we're like, okay, so everything's going back to normal. We're going to have all the
and
people
then
in,
there's another, yeah,
and then they're stuck. And like, could you imagine right now if we had this happening and people were
yeah,
like,
absurd. Yeah,
people were sheltering in place, and we were trying to track them all and make sure they were okay. I can't even get all of my Staten Island students to even fucking like respond to me via email, you know?
yeah.
and and part of it's because probably some of them are in the hospital.
Yeah.
So it's that's kind of where I'm at, and
Yeah.
I think that um, there's a couple things that keep me sort of being like, maybe we should do it. And one is, the sort of sense of obligation to them, but ultimately we owe them nothing. Um,
Yeah.
like we want to provide something, but in terms of like obligation, we have no obligation to do something when we think that in our best judgment it shouldn't be done. I also, part of me is like, you know me enough to know that I'm like a show must go on kind of person. Um, but the show probably shouldn't just go on without,
In this
in
case.
this case.
Yeah.
And the other is like I feel, um, I feel like uh, I feel bad for you on two levels. One is like you won't have this experience, and part of what you signed up for all this was to have this
To have
experience.
this experience. Yeah.
Um, and the,
Um.
and and let me finish. And the other is like what it means in terms of dollars.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll just put that there, and I'll let you respond to the experience one.
Could you clarify what it means in terms of dollars for you next year, you mean?
Well, it just means like there's a lot of. I mean, what it means is this is about the time when about $25,000 comes into the bank account from tuition from the participants, which funds about
Yeah, my role.
well, it funds your role. It funds about 10,000 of it goes towards 10 to 12,000 of it goes towards direct costs for running the practicum, um, and about like maybe 10,000 of it goes to that, and 10 to 12,000 of it goes towards your role, and um, and so some of like I guess some of that is a matter of like I guess what um, there's two sort of vectors in this. One is about the amount of work that needs to be done. If we're not running the practicum, there's a substantial amount of work that won't be done, right? Like
Exactly.
we don't need to do all the work for all the coordinating for planning everything. So that's a lot of work that you would be doing that just doesn't need to be done or won't be
I
done, right?
understand. Yeah.
Plus all of the typically, and I think you have access to this data, maybe you don't, but like you can go look at, maybe you don't have access to like Valerie's timesheets from last year, where like, and this is normal,
Yeah.
where June and July are
It's where.
twice as many hours as the rest of
Yeah.
the months. So I don't think there's any way of getting around that in full, but I will say that there's always other work to do in the studio, and you know that.
Yeah.
The other thing I will say is that uh, I'm waiting on a check from the gallery for $7,500. That's the LACMA purchase,
Yeah.
and that is supposed to come sometime this week. And so that, I mean, if you think about it in terms of like net dollars, if there's 25 in and another 10 goes out to pay for like insurance and all that stuff, all the honoraria. Um, so we're dealing with only about 15. Um, and anyway, it's like that will cover a lot of that, is what I'm trying to say. Um,
I hear that.
so like there is money coming in for now. Um, I'm telling you this not to make you afraid in any way, but to be transparent with you. Um,
Yeah.
And I think what it means is it's likely that there will be like June and July will just be normal months. They won't be like crazy months. They won't.
Yeah.
So it'll probably end up leading to $2,000 to $3,000 less over the course of the year in terms of the amount of work that needs to be done.
I understand.
Um,
And that's something I've, thought about
mhm.
when it comes to what's supposed to happen to this summer,
Yeah.
right? Um, and I guess like what I'm wondering
Yeah.
is because um, let's say if we cancel the practicum,
Yeah.
right? And so many other things are on pause,
Yeah.
right? For you, I imagine as well.
There's things that are on pause, yes. But I think that so much of what I do is self-directed
Yeah,
that it's not like I was on a call with you, you finish. I can respond to that more later.
yeah. I mean, that was my kind of expectation as I was looking forward was like, okay, 2 months that I thought would be really lucrative will not be. They'll be less lucrative, which I can find other ways to compensate around. Um, Now, what I was wondering is if you're also if on your end right now you're expecting like a significant dip in your work, you know,
Yeah, well, so
um,
yeah, I can answer that.
in
Um,
ways that would like lead to like even less hours of work for me than usual, which it doesn't seem like it's the case,
it's not
but
the
it's something
case.
I wanted to
It's
articulate
not
and
the case.
yeah,
It's not the case because so I was on the Silver Art. We've started to do these like weekly Zoom hangouts. They're trying to like foster some community.
yeah,
Um, and so they had somebody on to talk about grants, which really right now is like emergency grants, and all of the sort of different kinds of artist emergency grants as well as the federal ones. And I'm in a very different position than all these other people. Um, and like they're, one of them's like, my solo show has been canceled and I'm not getting the honorarium and I've got all this physical outlay for all these materials and it's put me in this crunch. That's not like the way I work, and um, I don't also conveniently don't have any solo shows coming up.
yeah,
Um, and the other thing is like, you know, as you know, CUNY subsidizes this. My work at CUNY, my full-time job at CUNY
yeah,
is what covers these costs. Um, you know, so like I am working. People are like, I was going to be in an art fair. I was like, I'm never in art fairs.
yeah,
The gallery tried to take me to Basel. Thank God they didn't get in because it's not happening. Um, wouldn't that be disappointing? Um,
really
That'd be
disappointing.
so disappointing. Um, but the gallery doesn't take me to art fairs because like my shit doesn't really sell. People are like, well, this, that, and the other, and you should reach out to your collectors. And I was like, I don't have collectors. Like I have relationships with curators who put me into shows, and maybe some of those museums will, maybe, purchase some of the work in the end. But like that's not. This is all very, very. I'm long game in an extreme way. Um,
Yeah,
and so in that regard, I'm very, very privileged to have
have a form of stability.
have a form of stability. Now let's be clear, it's going to be miserable at CUNY. You know,
Yeah,
it's like we're going to get the worst of the
yeah,
worst of the
you're gonna have to do
austerity.
a lot of
it's going to be awful. And, I think we've talked about this. I'm on sabbatical next year. Yes, we have. I know we've talked about this.
Yeah, we have.
So I can't imagine a better year to be gone. But it's going to still be there when I get back. Um,
Yeah.
so, in that regard, um, as far as things go, like the amount of work, like if you let's just put it this way: if we were to pivot right now and say practicum's not happening, but what the question then is like, well, what work are you going to do? And
There's a
there's
lot more.
there's a lot more. There's all
Yeah.
the web work that hasn't been done, all the website work that hasn't been done. There's all of the there's like if we want to say, okay, we're not going to do that, we're not going to do the practicum this summer, but during the practicum time, we're going to spend that time doing like a lot of like you know we can do a lot of like interviews, oral history, panels, and things like that on video chat, or just do them as like research projects, like inviting, we've got a bunch of people who are willing to be interviewed and people, past participants who want to interview them to do for like an oral history context. Or we could actually organize all the fucking photographs and start posting them to social media, you know? Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
there's tons of that work. It's work that you have to be wanting to do, and I think that that's and I think it's work that we can mostly do. I think that can be accomplished remotely.
Yeah, I think so too.
So
Um,
go.
I'm wondering outside of that, is there something that's going on for you this summer that we maybe have not discussed yet?
Is there something you know that I don't?
No, that's the question I'm asking you.
No. Um, I think that you've seen there's a bunch of shows that they're all group shows and they've mostly been canceled or postponed. But I'm very lucky that almost all of them are like, yeah, we're going to pay you your honorarium
Yeah,
anyway, which is the right thing to do.
it is the right thing to do.
Um, so there's that. I think that the only thing that I don't think you saw was that, yeah, you don't know about this, I don't think. Uh, there's an organization in Vancouver, BC called Philip that
Yeah.
is primarily a publishing entity, but they also do some public programming, and they were wanting to bring me. At one point, there was going to be a possibility that it was like a tag team. They were going to bring me out to give a talk and do a screening of postmodern times. But that didn't happen. Not this was well, they sort of determined not to happen well before the COVID stuff. That was like I wasn't, you know how I'm at this point. I don't really want to travel that much, so I wasn't that excited about it anyway. Um, but they came back to me and they're like, "Hey, so why don't we do a screening online of postmodern times?" And I was like, "That's kind of brilliant."
Yeah,
And
that'd be great.
so we're working on that, and then probably for the end of this month. But then Joel at LACMA wrote me and was like, "Hey," and he was like, "We're now programming basically for our website only." So I've been thinking about it, and the first thing that came to mind was postmodern times. Can we screen that on their website? And I was like,
That could be something we pitch to a couple of different places, actually.
"Yeah." It was like perfect timing. I mean, yeah,
That could be, yeah, I think that's a great idea.
maybe we should do some pitching.
Yeah, I think I mean, I don't know. I was even thinking about your, the billboard project,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And thinking about, kind of like sending that out, which I think is a really timely piece right now,
yes,
you know? And
yes,
I think it could be really timely for a lot of different websites that are getting traffic right now.
yeah,
Um, and could potentially be like written into like a new frame.
Yes.
Um, that would be kind of like a reflection on, kind of like forms of like absence, of like figures of absence,
Yeah.
that are like felt feeling really, really present, and like absence of authority also, I think,
Mm-hmm.
is a part of that piece in a way that feels really oppressive because there is no authority, right?
Yeah.
Um, and this is a mess right now, and the way that authority is functioning right now is like a clear testament to you know kind of like the fallacy of the like paternal figure of authority that like guides the nation.
Yes, yes.
Um, and with the elections and how these elections have been, like, I just think it's a very appropriate moment to send that out to a couple of different places. And I mean, I don't know if you're even open to this, but that could be like writing could be a part of it in a way that I think
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
interesting now because people are circulating writing.
Yeah.
And it's a good moment to put out reflections in ways that people aren't putting out reflections right now,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to like taking that step back and not just going into like the place of like kind of like inspirational prose, but actual like real critique.
Yeah.
You know. Um, so I don't know. That's just a thought, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think it could be fun to pitch, and clearly there's a lot of opportunity with a lot of digital projects.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, as part of after we deal with practicum stuff, it could be interesting for maybe me to take on some of the work of like finding good outlets to show you,
Yes.
in terms of places where there could be opportunity.
Yeah.
But I want to gauge your interest
Yeah, I'm interested in that.
in terms of um, you know what what I guess I'm curious as to what kinds of things you may be thinking about as well when you see the kinds of like opportunities that are popping up right now.
Yeah.
Like, what are has anything caught your eye? Of course, you've been like super overwhelmed with like the moment and CUNY, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching all the stuff happening a little bit, but I haven't been really paying that much of attention. Like,
Okay.
in terms of like, I know that all these organizations are now like, oh, digital. It's like, yeah, we did that. There was a,
Yeah.
uh, there was a funny tweet by someone named Petra Courtwright, who was like a second generation net artist. And, they're like, oh, Petra Courtwright, her work is so relevant now. And she was like, really? Net art nearly killed me. It's like there's this sort of like tweet where it's like, you're all just discovering this and thinking about this now, but like we've been doing this for a long ass fucking time.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. I think, yeah, I like the idea of online screenings. Um, I mean,
and
like we're,
let me say what I meant
yeah,
by that also is like, I'm not paying attention to it because I've already done this 20 years ago in that sense. Like,
yeah,
I'm not actively paying attention to this because this is like something I did a long time ago.
yeah,
I've done it and like it's important to me, but like, I don't need to go back and make internet art right now. Just because all of a sudden museums are like, oh my god, we've got like, we've got,
yeah. I don't think you have to go back and make new things. I
yeah,
think there's just new spaces to put the things you already have.
that I agree with.
Um,
I also think I like your idea a lot. I think it has value, and I think it's good. Um,
yeah. Okay, so that can be something we do. Um, Now to kind of backpedal a little bit and talk about practicum.
yeah.
Um,
Hold on one second. Let me get up. I'm done painting. I'm gonna turn.
Okay.
Give me one second.
Take your time.